another bluebell engine. There had been reports of an accident at the viaduct, and the fat controller sent Emily and Rocky to the rescue. When they arrived at the viaduct, they found an engine at a deep ravine. "There he is," said Rocky. "We'll go crane him out now," and they set to work at once. The engine was back on the rails and had his last look at the ravine and was being pulled by Emily with Rocky. Soon the engine had just been taken to the workshop at Croven's Gate. The fat controller asked him immediately, "Where have you come from?" he asked, but there was no reply. Instead, the fat controller gave the engine a hard stare. "I am going to repeat this again. Where have you come from?" But the engine still didn't reply. "All right then," said the fat controller. "I'll ask your owner where you have come from, and you will be sent back to his heritage railway," he said, and he walked away. But a few moments after he couldn't find the owner, he had already asked the engine to take on some passenger runs. It made him very happy. After the rain had finally stopped, the engine was indeed taking his passenger run to the big station. When other engines tried to talk to him, he couldn't say anything, and sometimes they would ask who he is, but he still didn't reply. The engine remained calm, quiet, and keeping himself to himself. Later that evening, Stepney was racing down the line with his passengers on board his two bright red coaches. When he arrived at the big station, he met the unnamed engine who couldn't talk. "So you're the one who couldn't talk," said Stepney, and it looks like there have been some other bluebell engines that have been saved besides from me, he said. The engine looked at Stepney and turned away from him. "Come on," said Stepney. "No need to be shy. We're not bad engines. Tell me who you are." The engine smiled happily. "My name's Whiff," he said. Soon Stepney pondered. "Whiff? Whiff. I swear I heard that name before." Then realization hit them in the smoke box. "Whiff? Stepney?" said Whiff. I thought you had been scrapped after our line had closed," said Stepney. "I was Stepney," said Whiff, "until the private owner bought me, and I'm still here." "And why have you come?" asked Stepney. Poor Whiff didn't reply, and he puffed shyly away. Later, Whiff was sleeping at a siding net outside Wellsworth Station. His driver and fireman were inside the station cafe having some tea and coffee. Whiff could hear the sound of some footsteps. He thought it was his driver and went to sleep. But when he began to move, "Driver? Driver?" he said. But then he realized he was reversing to the end of the sheds. "Help!" he cried, but before he could crash, he had stopped. "Phew!" he went. "That was close." And indeed it was. Just then the fat controller arrived and asked Whiff what was going on. "I don't know, sir," he said. "I thought it was my driver and fireman, but we were having some tea and coffee at the station cafe," said the driver and fireman to the fat controller. "That's all right," replied the fat controller. "Whoever's caused this disturbance will have me to answer to," he said, and he walked away to see what the matter was. Later he came back and had a chat with Whiff. "Stepney, I've asked Stepney if if it would be all right for you to take his passengers, he said, and he told me, he said, yes, you can take his passenger train to Alsborough Station Harbour, he said. Only you can do the passenger work for now. Thank you, sir, said Whiff happily, and he puffed away to collect Stepney's coaches. He bustled into the big station where Stepney was waiting. Hello, Whiff, said Stepney. Looks like you're going to need the extra run. Thank you, Whiff, said Stepney. Maybe I would use a run for a change, with your passengers and coaches, if that's all right, he asked. Sure, said Stepney. Then his driver blew the whistle inside. Good luck, Whiff, said Stepney. I have to collect some dirty trucks, he said, and he puffed away. Whiff whistled goodbye. But a few moments after Stepney had gone, he could feel himself moving. Whiff! Shouted his driver. Where are you going? But Whiff didn't reply. Soon, he started going faster than he had ever gone before. Poor Whiff couldn't stop. Every station he raced, everybody thought what a strange engine he was. Help! Cried Whiff, but no one replied. He went through a tunnel and through the coastal line. Somebody help me, I can't stop, cried Whiff. But no one was there to help. He went through the line where he had crashed into a ditch. Whiff tried to stop, but no one was there to help him. He then went down the hill, and before he knew it, he had gone to the station. He was happy to be saved, but then there was trouble. The passengers got out of the coaches and got angry and walked off at once. And Whiff felt unhappy. Soon Stepney arrived with Whiff's crew and his own crew to find Whiff. Whiff? Asked Stepney. Are you all right? Yes, Stepney, said Whiff. I felt like someone was controlling me, but who was it? Asked Stepney. I'll explain later, said Whiff, and together the two were trying to make amends for their mistakes. Until that night, the two bluebell engines were fast asleep in their sheds with the other engines. While Whiff was sleeping, he could hear the sounds of footsteps approaching. When he opened his eyes, a figure walked up towards him and gave him a fright. No, not you! Cried Whiff. Who was it, Whiff? Asked Stepney. Oh, you must be having a bad dream, yawned Rheneas, and he went tiredly to sleep. Until the next morning, Whiff arrived at the quarry with some garbage to take to the waste dump when the fat controller was there waiting for him. You asked for me, sir? Said Whiff. Yes, said the fat controller. I've heard some reports that your owner passed away at the ditch, he said. But sir, said Whiff, he's still alive. Then how was it that the last time I saw him, you was with him in that ditch, and I saw blood all over him, he said, and there was nowhere for his body to be found when we looked for him in the river, he said. But it also turns out, after we craned you out of that river, we found his dead body, and I sworn he could have been dead, he said. But anyways, he said, because he's nowhere to be found, the Heritage Railway has asked you to bring you back to his railway before he would haunt you again, he said. Yes, sir, said Whiff unhappily. He was sure he would never belong to the Fat Controller's railway. He left his trucks at the quarry and puffed crossly away. And then he stayed at the sheds for the rest of the day. Other times he would feel cross about his owner, and other times he couldn't sleep properly and felt worried about him. Soon Stepney arrived to cheer him up. Whiff, he said, if you have any problems, I'll be there to help. But Whiff was trying to let Stepney help him. It's him, he said. He's a pathetic excuse for a human being. Who? Asked Stepney. John Mascatush, he said. He's the one who's been a pathetic excuse for a human being. He's the one that derailed me in that ditch and then disrupted my time with your passengers, he said. And even for 46 years he was trying to sell me to the banks, he said, after our line had closed. I'd rather be sold to the Heritage Railway overrun by diesels than being bought by him, he said. All those years I was in a scrap siding at Barrow and Furnace, being turned to rust, he said. He was using me so that he would pay all of his bills and council taxes, he said. But I'm worried though. If I say those things against him, he would do something bad to me. Then his spirit would haunt me. You have to stand up to him, said Stepney. Don't be afraid to do so. And Whiff knew Stepney was right. That night, Whiff decided to sleep at Wellsworth Station. Nobody at the sheds knew why except for Stepney, but Whiff told him it was private. When midnight struck, John Mascatush appeared. Whiff stared coldly at him, and so did John Mascatush. Leave, he said. I know what you're doing. You're plotting against me so that you'll sell me to the banks for scrap, he said. And you've also wasted my 46 years of experiment as a tank engine after my rebuild, he said. All you cared about was your paying bills and council taxes, he said. And you also cared about scrapping engines for money. Leave, he said, and never come back. And before he knew it, John Mascatush's spirit disappeared and vanished. The next morning after, the Fat Controller had sorted out his arrangements with the banks, and his new engine Whiff was now a full-time member on the North Western Railway and helps on the Bluebell branch line with Stepney. He even told him his experience. And you know what else happened? He told Stepney his spirit disappeared and he was long gone as hell, he said. But, he said, thanks for helping me around. You've been the closest friend I've ever had. Stepney smiled and then he blushed. And you know what? Said Whiff before he would finish. I'm so glad to be owned by a controller who knows how to run steam engines properly.